Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first session. Thank you so much for joining us. I welcome on board our moderator and panelists. Our first session, The School of the Future, Designing Tomorrow's Education with Digital Mindset and Advanced Technology. Welcome to all our speakers. I would also like to welcome our guest speaker, Eva Chang. Moderator for today, Samir Maktouf, and our two speakers, Maria Gilmore and Linda Cecil. Over to our speakers.
Hello, and I wish to welcome you to this event. And I wish to start by expressing my admiration and gratefulness to the Turapan team for having carefully and professionally orchestrated this event about the School of the Future, bearing in mind that education is the main catalyst that may positively contribute to the betterment of mankind. It's a privilege to join with Linda Cecil and Maria Gilmore, that would be panelists. And what I will do now, I'll just introduce and tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Samir Maktouf. I was born and educated in Tunisia, North Africa, where I started as an Air Force pilot. I have been involved in different facets of the education field here in the US for over 30 years, including work with the FAA as instructor, college professor. I have designed a college degree used here locally in Florida. I had the privilege to participate with the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and different researches related to education. And so the way that this is going to work is we will have the panelists introduce themselves and say a few words about what they do and what they graduated from and their goals and things like that. And then I would be asking them a few questions and then follow-up questions. And then we'll end up with closing remarks. So Linda, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Apologies. Hello? So many platforms. Sorry, I was muted, Samir. Apologies. I realized that. Good morning and good morning to everyone. Really excited to be part of the panel today. So I think as a way of introduction, I realized in the introduction to say that tell us about what you graduated in. I had to think twice because it was so long ago. But in any case, so I graduated in industrial psychology and marketing many moons ago, and but never practiced as a psychologist. My husband thinks I practice that every day at home, but I don't think that's true at all. And also then later on did my master's in business science in one of the best universities in South Africa, which is Wits, University of Witwatersrand. I think in terms of what I currently do, I work for Amazon Web Services, and I head what we call the education business vertical. And this business really looks after the full education community, be it learners, educators, researchers, and technology providers in South Africa. And my responsibility is to help drive the mission of accelerating digital transformation within the education sector. So I'm super excited to be able to share some of the insights today from the stories of our customers. So, and I think like you, Samir, were speaking earlier on, I'm really passionate about education. I come from a family of educators and believe without any doubt that education is a powerful tool that can change the economic prospects of Africa. So in addition to my role, we partner with education institutions to create a transformative educational experience and also empower these institutions to prepare students for industry recognized certifications and careers in the cloud. So I'm super excited to be sharing that with you today.
That's very interesting. Maria, let's hear from you.
Thanks, Samir. It's really great to be here this morning. Thanks for having me on your panel. I am a behavior analyst. I work in the Pacific Northwest in the United States in Washington and Oregon. And I've been in the field for about 25 years. My doctorate is in special education with focuses in autism, behavior analysis, and learning and cognition. And currently, I'm the Chief Clinical Officer of a company called Gemini Systems, where we provide video modeling for individuals with exceptionalities with any communication needs. And I also run a small ABA, Applied Behavior Analytic Agency in Washington and Oregon, where we provide primarily caregiver education, parent education, and we also provide direct intervention services via telehealth. And we've been doing telehealth for about 10 years. I also collaborate with multidisciplinary teams across the globe and currently doing work in Nigeria, where we're conducting trials on video modeling with children and adolescents and adults with autism and language delays. So I've seen over the past 2 years with this change in education that we've had, that it's really allowed us to explore more opportunities to gather data and to really provide services for individuals across the globe, regardless of their access to therapists and in-person services. So now we're able to provide that on demand. So I'm excited to discuss that with you all today.
Perfect. Thank you for joining. So I would make a few opening remarks, and then our panelists, both Linda and Maria, will do the same. And then, I'll be asking a few questions. So the opening remarks is to introduce the subject at hand, namely the School of the Future, designing tomorrow's education with digital mindset and advanced technology. I'm going to talk about 3 facts. The first one is the education systems around the world have become so dysfunctional and out of touch with the new global workforce demands that the statistics of unemployment will continue to grow as long as we have not adapted the education system to the future labor needs. The second fact is the education is delivered on the basis of one size fits all, to the detriment of a large number of students who do not fit the average student profile. And the third fact is that the COVID-19 situation took a negative toll on human lives around the world. But the positive outcome is that it has precipitated the reliance on remote education services and the disruption of classic education as we know it. So these facts hopefully will set the scene for the subjects we want to talk about. And so, Maria, would you please give us your opening remarks?
So I like that you brought up the one size fits all. That really hit home for me because we individualize our therapy for children with autism and anybody with an exceptionality. That is all individualized. And I've seen over the last 18 months this effort to really automize or make streamline the process using technology to address these therapy needs. And we can't really do that. We really do need the clinician to drive that service. But what we can do is make our services and what we do more effective. We can do what we do, what we're meant to do better through technology. So we've seen our patients respond better through this 2D method, this technology, than even in person. Now that means we need to teach those social skills to those individuals. But we believe that's possibly due to the social filtering skills that are necessary in order to interact with a live person. So there's advantages there. But we've been able to use technology to present those rote tasks that we do in therapy and then focus on getting the families to help the child, or teen or adult, to generalize those skills. And so we can use technology to front load information now more than ever before. Very exciting time.
Yes, that's true. That's going to be very helpful. Linda.
Thanks, Samir. I think both of you have touched on probably two critical points that are driving the change that we see. One of it being what the COVID-19 pandemic did in terms of accelerating adoption of technology in response to remote learning. And the second one, which I will touch on, is the one size fit all. You called it the one size fit all, the personalization of education. So to start off with, I think what's been quite visible in the education institutions' strategies for many years prior to the COVID-19 pandemic is the need to adopt blended learning. So I don't think us sitting here and saying this the pandemic is the driver is the only effect. Most institutions realize that they would need to increase blended learning within their institution. And this obviously opens then the door to the personalized education that Maria was referring to, that enables students to learn what they want to learn at their own pace, combining both the campus experience and the personalized experience. And one thing as well that I totally am happy to see from Maria's example is that educators do agree that personalized education yields better learning outcomes. And I think you also touched on that, Amir, in your introduction. And that technology is really has been able to accelerate this process. From most of our customers, as I mentioned, that I would like to share some of the examples of what we see in our customers. We see learning management solutions and tools such as Blackboard, Canvas, Ellucian, Moodle, that all run on AWS Cloud, for instance, have become the backbone to most education institution strategies of building capacity to support blended learning. And then another point that I want to touch on, and you also touched on earlier on, is that one of the trends that is forcing the change or driving the change per se is the interest in stackable learning, which is the ability for students to take a selection of academic programs that can stack together to achieve a certificate or degree. And the funny thing is that for many years, community colleges and further education institutions had adopted this alternative certification to keep up with the pace of change in the job demanded by the labor market. So we're seeing a lot of demand for this, and I suppose it also aligns to the flexibility that the students are asking for. And lastly, or maybe this actually should have been first, because the education is about student right. So we're finding that education institutions are being put in a place where students are unhappy with the digital experience that they get. and are under pressure to provide modern digital solutions to solve the challenge on campus. So that is driving the change or the need for the school of the future, and new technologies offer personalized learning assistance to students to remind them of, for instance, about their assignments and offer feedback on their learning experience. So those are some of the trends that we see in the industry.
Okay, so you think that these are the trends that are driving the change in the education field?
Yes, indeed. There are many. I think there are definitely many trends that are out there, but most of them, I think, are around the flexibility that's needed in learning, and also the idea that education institutions need to align to the digital expectations or the expectations of the students in terms of adoption of technology.
Okay. Okay, Maria, you know, the main subject that we wish to discuss with you has to do with kids with disability. So how do you see the school of the future for kids with disability?
Well, I really like what Linda just said, how it's really important for us to provide those accommodations and the training to make that experience a seamless transition for our students to access technology. I have seen that a lot of the individuals that I work with prefer to work on the computer, or they prefer the technology. They're really, we have a problem almost with screen addiction. So, but what we want to do is make that time that the child or individuals on the screen to be incredibly meaningful. And so this is how we can continue with our research and exposing individuals in areas where they don't have access to therapists, and they're able to access a therapist through technology. I think it's really important we continue to collect data and analyze what's going on. But I do see that there is a great need for that transition, and for us to set our kids up, our students up to be successful.
Okay. Do you think that technology will help, as we mentioned earlier, the one size fits all, to determine the needs for students with disability in the future, as to pinpointing exactly the needs that students with disability may have, as opposed to one size fits all?
I think that is a challenge right now, because we're looking for really solid assessment tools. For example, a developmental assessment I use in the United States may not be relevant to the work that I'm doing in Nigeria. And so we want to make sure that we have culturally sensitive assessments, and that we have clinicians, teachers, individuals who are trained on those assessments to deliver them. And then it all comes down to training the caregivers and the parents. They're the ones, whoever's caring for that individual, they're going to give us that information. So we need to rely on their eyes and make sure that the data they're collecting, what they're telling us, is accurate. And so we really work towards that education for the caregiver.
Okay. Linda, we have a question from the audience, and it's the question puts it not in digital divide, but digital exclusion for remote area, mainly in Africa. So what do you think, how is that, how could that be mitigated and improved? What this questioner calls it digital exclusion in rural area in Africa.
Yeah. So I think this is probably one of the challenges, or the consideration, depending how you see it, of adoption of technology, especially I think within the South African context. Many learners do not have access to the technology necessary for learning, online learning, be it devices, be it reliable internet connection. And we find that the problem is probably more acute in the primary and secondary schooling system than it is in the higher education institutions. And this is real. We've been working with education institutions, as I mentioned, and we see a lot of effort and time and budgets being released to aid the students that are coming from disadvantaged or low-income communities to be able to access technology, and then obviously in turn access the learning. So I definitely agree that if this is left unaddressed, this digital gap definitely widens. We've seen mentioned that we work with technology partners, which we call edtech companies, that are building solutions for the education sector. And we found that some of them are developing solutions that can be used both online and offline to serve the students who have limited capacity for connectivity. One of such customers is Netlify. They have various solutions where the institutions or the students can access content both on an offline and an online option.
Okay. Let me follow up, if you will, with another question, and that is about what do you think the technologies will be at play, since we're talking about the school of the future? What technologies do you think will be much more needed than others and will make a difference in the education in the future?
Yeah, so I think we've sort of determined from this conversation that the school of the future will have to encompass flexibility in learning. That means the student doesn't need to be face-to-face to be in a face-to-face interaction with an educator. So we've also determined that the school of the future will need to be to drive personalization in education. So those are some of the critical elements of what the school will look like. So if that's the case, the technology that will enable the school of the future, technologies that offer both flexibility in terms of in the availability, because they will have to scale up to meet these needs of students that are not necessarily in a classroom environment. And one such technology is obviously the cloud technology, which is helping institution digital transformation strategies. And the reason for this is really mainly because of the increased agility and speed that is needed. And the traditional IT infrastructures don't necessarily give that same agility and speed. And we've seen especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, examples of customers or education institutions that have adopted the cloud technology in an effort to increase their capacity to student and give them the ability to scale up and down as they needed. So this technology really allows customers to spin up resources as they need them and deploy hundreds or even thousands of servers in minutes. So this actually addresses some of the challenges for education institution. The other technology that's become quite popular is the voice technology, which improves the student and faculty experience. And we've seen institutions such as University of Lancaster Lancaster University in the UK, adopting one of our products called Alexa to make it easy for students to navigate their academic and university life. So these are some of the examples that we see. And obviously, I think last but not least is machine learning and artificial intelligence technology. that leverages student data and brings machine learning and artificial intelligence to the forefront to improve student experience.
Okay. We have, as it has been mentioned at the beginning, a guest speaker, Eva, and I would like to know if she would kindly present her input here with this session. It's Eva. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Samir. Thanks for having me here this morning.
Yes.
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, just a couple of thoughts to add to this very interesting discussion. For my brief background, I'm a university educator, so a lot of the points that Rahil talked about, it's been a very lived experience over the past 18 months, but also a lot of learnings. So in terms of just the question that's gone past on emerging technologies, I definitely wanted to raise the point of machine learning and AI, that it also has two points of view where, yes, there's a lot of information for students to help with the personalized learning, but we're also starting to see how it can help the teachers teach better. If we can get insights on where students are struggling with certain concepts or things like that, then we can also adapt our delivery. And we've also started to see more tools for automated feedback and helping students to improve their work before the need for a human intervention. That's not the replacement of a human, but it's an interesting use for how we can work with technology in the classroom to improve everyone's experience, rather than the opposite. And on the point around the use of voice tools, I wanted to just raise the point around accessibility. So what we've seen in the classroom since COVID-19 has been even just simple subtitles, automatic subtext have been really useful for students, not those who may have any hearing impairments or any bandwidth challenges, but everybody. Because it's much easier to digest the information when it's presented to you in a different form. And also if the language of instruction is not necessarily in your native tongue. So that's also been a complete game changer. The technology's been around for a long time. It's just the marriage of that technology with what we're using at the moment, I think is a huge advantage. And that's something that we could think about, is perhaps we don't need to invent a lot of new technologies. There's probably a lot already out there that we could plug into the education system to make things just a little bit better.
Okay, thank you very much, Eva. I would like to go back to the question of the digital divide, and then would like to have the input of Maria about this.
Right. So we really do try to address this issue that families contend with now, not having access due to being in rural areas, but also this boundary of not having access, not having the bandwidth to be able to play video modeling assignments, because this is what we send video modeling assignments through the cloud, kind of like iTunes of video models. And so what we've done is we have the families go to the closest area to where they can access the internet, download 2 weeks worth of content so they can show the child offline content on a daily basis where they wouldn't have to have internet access. And so in the areas where they can go to a library and access the internet, that's what we are doing currently to deal with that issue. And then I did want to just talk about the cost of all of this. I know it's very expensive sometimes. I know with video modeling, what we do with creating the videos, and it can be very, very pricey. So I'm just encouraging that we go and apply for the grants and get the research out there and get our government involved in funding this for our students.
Okay, you know how they say, when you're having fun, time flies. And so I would like to ask very kindly of you to, in 2 minutes, to make a closing statement. Let's start with Eva, and then Linda, and then Maria.
Thanks so much. So just focusing on our topic of the school of the future, designing tomorrow's education with digital mindset and advanced technology. I think one point I wanted to raise was one of the first of the three that you mentioned around education being out of touch with industry needs. So I do think that this is something we need to keep in mind because with all the future skills that are coming up with the future of work, we do need to be a technology-enabled workforce. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody needs to be in the technology fields of study. So long as we are all comfortable in working with technology, that's what's really important. And more importantly is how technology works with humanity and in very ethical ways. So I want to just come back to my previous point around the potential for AI. I think it has a lot of potential, but we need to be very careful on how we use it, because in the same ways that AI-enabled feedback and data and insights could be very beneficial for student experiences, it's also, there's always that chance of it could be quite damaging in the same way. So I think we need to be very, very careful. I also wanted to touch a little bit on the COVID-19 opportunities because it did catalyse the education sector to shift to remote learning. And to be honest, it's probably something that we should have done quite a long time ago, but it just made things happen a lot quicker. And now it's a bit of a chance to think about what our new normals can look like emerging from COVID. What does good blended learning look like? What works better in person that we really can't replicate online? But what does actually work better online? And these are the practices that we should keep. So it's definitely not an either or, but it's an opportunity, especially at a conference like this, to discuss what could look like moving forward, but with equity in mind, because pros of remote learning, it's flexible, but cons, as some of the questions have highlighted, is also in inequitable access to digital technologies.
Thanks. Linda?
Yeah, I think for me, Samia, sorry, what I probably would like to, in my last remark, is the opportunities for schools, as we are probably reassessing how students should be taught or what preparation is needed within the school, is for the education institutions to start to better align with the industry, with the education outcomes, with the needs for the industry. And why this is probably important is that there is definitely a need for students to be better prepared for jobs of the future. I think one of the colleagues on the panel has just mentioned that. And we see that there is, if I speak about the cloud technology, for instance, that it's estimated to grow to 331 billion by 2022, which is next year. And that this is the most in-demand skills for employers. Yet, at the same time, especially within the South African context, we're seeing that there is high levels of graduate unemployment. So what we at AWS would like to appeal to most of the education institutions is to work with us to try and align as we offer several programs that and resources that can be utilized by education institutions to prepare students for these in-demand roles. We believe that the higher education especially still remains the crucial site for where tomorrow's business leaders, engineers and builders, entrepreneurs can gain skill that they need to add value in the workplace. But the gap is in better aligning between industries such as ourselves and education institutions to ensure that students are better prepared for these jobs or the jobs that are available.
Okay, thanks. Maria?
I have a couple points, but I did want to just make a comment on what you was talking about regarding the cons of digital learning, because I think it's important to look at that because there are some major leaps we need to make there. And I want to say in my field, we're always looking to decrease screen time. So that's important for our students to not be on a screen all the time. So we want to figure out how we can use technology to get kids off of technology so that they're generalizing their skills. So we say, first you have your video learning time, then we use what we learn. And if we can really get that process well oiled. I think that that's kind of the focus for that that digital learning con there. I also wanted to say 2 more points about video modeling technology and using technology for individuals with disabilities or any learner, is that it has allowed us to focus on collaboration at its best. We have been able to put together so many related services and caregivers who have never participated in this way before. And so my final point is that this also can allow individuals to feel empowered. And I see parents and caregivers learning skills that they never thought that they could learn, or they were violently shoved into this situation due to the world crisis. And so we've been able to teach these families and these caregivers and give them the tools to be able to help their children effectively learn and become advocates for their children and teach their children to advocate for themselves.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I'll just mention a few things in my closing remarks. And I was to close on a positive note for Africa. When we take into consideration the global situation, as we move into the future, the true wealth would be human creativity, because all routine jobs and predictable job tasks will no doubt be taken over by robots, by AI and machine learning. The only place in the world that would have the most human minds is Africa, considering the age of the population and the growth and the number. So Africa must seize this opportunity. Africa has always been the symbol of the motherland, the symbol of the human roots. Africa may well represent the next frontier, the future of mankind, should it focus on education. Thanks for the wealth of information disclosed by our panelists. And again, I wish to close by thanking Turapan team for wonderful work. And thanks for everyone's kind attention for attending this event.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much to our panel of speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for the next session.